Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Okay, so hey, there are times when we all could use a little extra help and support in our lives. Whether there's something you're struggling with or just seeking connection with other people who understand what it's like to be in your situation, Inovia Behavioral Health can help. Inovia is a subscription-based organization that provides unlimited access to a wide variety of educational, experiential, and therapeutic support groups that are led by live expert facilitators. Now, you can get 20% off your membership with the discount code Cookbook20 when you subscribe. Check it out today at inoviabh.com. Inovia, feel better. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am very excited about my guest today, Jennifer Radke. I'm going to read her really short bio and then bring her on. I think this is probably the shortest bio that I've ever read. So Jennifer Radke is an international speaker, author, and strategic business leader with over 20 years of experience in sales and organizational leadership. Currently, she manages two digital marketing credentialing bodies, the National Institute for Social Media and OMCP, Online Marketing Certified Professionals, and is passionate about building a community focused on growth and professional development. So without further ado, let's meet Jennifer.
Hi, Iris. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And that was seriously like the shortest bio that I've ever read.
It's probably the shortest one I've ever turned in, too. There's so many other things that you got to know when to quit, right?
Well, but we're going to talk about all the things. So I realize I have this thing in my background. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's funny because I have a cleaning lady. She usually goes to my office. She's been on vacation for 2 weeks, and my office is just. I texted her and I'm like, you can't go on vacation for 2 weeks anymore, which is sad, but because there's always so many things. So National Institute of Social Media, and then the online marketing credentialing. That's huge, especially for me now. I'm going to have to get certified, and we're going to have to talk about that. But I think it's really important that, that these exist. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about the National Institute of Social Media, how that whole thing started, and then how,
Yeah. It's a super fun journey. So National Institute for Social Media started in response to inquiries from companies back in 2011. Companies were coming to a local community college. I live here in Minnesota, and they were going to a local community college asking, how do we hire social media managers? How do we hire talented folks who understand how to utilize social media for business? They had tried, there are young people who are growing up on it, and they had found that maybe they didn't all have the business acumen needed to handle some of the confidentiality or issues that might arise within a business setting. And they had tried some traditional marketers who were either reluctant or didn't really understand the new digital platforms. So the founder of the National Institute for Social Media, Eric Mills, went looking for a program, went looking for an industry certification to help solve this problem for employers. And when he didn't find one, he decided to build one. And so he worked with a variety of subject matter experts and industry professionals to complete what's done about every 2 years now, which is a job study analysis that looks at what's the competencies of an individual practicing social media strategy in the world today, and then went to build a certification exam. I actually had the pleasure of coming in right before the exam launched in June of 2012, and I've been here in some capacity ever since. So that's kind of how we got started.
That is so cool. And so when you're certifying for social media, is it the business acumen piece, or is it best practices? Like what is it exactly?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. So we certify on social media strategy, and I know that's huge, right? So let me break it down.
Okay.
We have 6 different content domain areas that we address within the strategy competencies. Strategic planning. So this is going to include things like audience identification, setting key performance indicators and critical success factors, really understanding what your goals are as an organization and as it relates to social media marketing. Then we get into things like compliance and governance in domain 2, where we talk about those things that are legally required of you, like FTC regulations on identifying the fact that it's an advertisement or an affiliation that you might have, copyright, trademark, Creative Commons, all of that, right? From there, we go into a very broad category called marketing and communications, and it really looks at different things like content creation. What are the different types of content you could be creating for social media? We are platform agnostic, so we're not testing people on their ability to post on Facebook, for example. We're helping to test their ability on understanding the concepts, right? Like, what are the different types of content medium you might use? And what are the different reasons or examples of how you might use that? How do you create solid call to actions or CTAs? Internal and external communication and marketing practices are looked at, how traditional fits in the mix and how social should really work together, not in its own silo, but together with traditional. So it kind of looks at all of that. Number 4 is project and campaign management. As strategists, we have to know that all of our little pieces are marching together in the way that they should. So how do you do that? How do you engage with vendors? When is it the right time to bring someone on, outsource certain aspects, all of that?
This is almost more corporate, basically.
It seems very corporate, but it's something we all do when we're working with clients in this capacity, right? 5 is online community management. So it includes things like crisis communications. And yay, you have a following, but how do you engage with them now? How do you keep them interested? And then last, but certainly not least, I would say it goes through all of the different domains, is research and analysis. How are we using data to back up the decisions we're making, right? Instead of just saying, well, that little video was fun, I want to do it again, right? We really talk about the return on investment, the return on ad spend, whatever that might be.
That is so cool. And it's funny because as I hear you talk about it, I do that. I mean, when we're doing social media, and even when I do my own social media, right? I mean, I'm really cognizant of what I'm putting out. I know who my audience is. I've worked hard to identify who my audience is. And, but you're right. A lot of people out there don't get it. A lot of people don't understand copyright and intellectual property. I had, how can I say this without, so well, it doesn't matter. Years ago, I was working with a client who's still my client. He's been my client for like a million years. We were going to be doing their website. Something happened that caused us not to, whatever. It's a long story. But then we ended up doing their social media. Then we ended up not doing their social media. The only way that I could put it is that one of the partners, I fell out of favor with one of the partners in the business because I was loyal to the other one, because it was like this whole personal bullshit thing. But anyway, so then the local newspaper did an ad and they used a stock photo of a vegetable. And the person who took the picture sued them.
Yeah.
For $5,000.
Yeah.
And my client was like, oh my God, am I liable for this? And I was like, well, kind of, sort of, technically, but really the newspaper posted it. So it was like, and I think the newspaper ended up becoming responsible for it. But it's one of those things that as marketers, like I tell all my clients, they'll be like, oh, like if I'm doing something for them, they'll be like, hey, let's just grab this picture I found. I'm like, no, 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 no. Either we use your photos, or there are services out there that I have, contracts with, that we can use photos with licenses that we're allowed to use. And some people just don't know that.
No, they don't. And it's really funny. I've had a lot of people say to me, specific to this very topic, with everything out there today, we don't need to know about Creative Commons. We don't need to know about copyright and trademark. Think AI for a second, right? How are we going to handle that?
Yeah.
The reality is if you're running social media or marketing in any way for a business, you do have to understand what rules and guidelines are out there, and not necessarily just the ones here in the US.
Right.
What about GDPR as it relates to email marketing, right? How does that factor in, and how are you managing that so that your business is not liable for a choice that you made?
Right. And it's scary because there's like a lot of people out there that we're in a litigious society now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know the client who was not ADA compliant, and there are these companies and people out there that either have little bots going around, or they have people going around to every single freaking website to make sure that it's ADA compliant. And if it is a business that is, I think if they have 5 W-2s or more, they have to be ADA compliant, or they can get sued. And this person got sued. And I mean, the thing for me is, when it comes to ADA compliance, I think, a little bit more biased about it because one of the women that I'm running a challenge with at the end of the month is disabled. And she's really brought to light the lack of accessibility. So like on my website, we've done the back end work because I want everybody, when somebody comes to my website, whatever their lot in life is, whether they're disabled, whether they're not disabled, whether, whatever, I want them to be able to come to my site and have an amazing user experience, period.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right. And a lot of people don't. So I don't like, if I'm working with somebody and I say, hey, you need to be ADA compliant. When we build this website, we're building it, and they're like, I don't care about that. I'm not working with you.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to. And I had that issue last week, and they were like, what are you talking about? And I said, it's something that right now you don't have to if you don't want to, but you're going to have to, number one. And number two, you should want to. Why would you want to lock out a part of society?
Oh, exactly. Why don't you want to be inclusive and allow everyone to experience what you have to offer?
Well, we had that conversation. We're not going to go there.
We did.
But exactly. You want this to be accessible to everybody. And I think that's huge. So is that something that you touch on in the, oh crap, I'm going to get it wrong, OCMP?
The OMCP certification. Yep, that's actually the second organization, that I just acquired. And they do digital marketing certification as well, but they look at a couple of different things. So we talked about the social media strategist one. OMCP will look at things like SEO, pay-per-click, conversion rate optimization, mobile marketing, email marketing, and then some content and socials in there as well. Similar approach, right, in the sense that it's platform neutral or platform agnostic. We're really trying to help people think about these things as they relate to all aspects of digital marketing. And I can tell you that, yes, accessibility is important and is involved in our continuing education, and likely will be in the next reiteration of both exams, because it has become even more important in the industry. Because, as I mentioned earlier, one of the things we do with both of these certification exams is a job study analysis. We really dictate what's on these exams by the market, right? What are people doing out there in the industry? What are those necessary standards? And we're moving into having to do more and more and understand more and more, even in the social side. What is camel case? What is alt text? How are we putting it? And not just where are we putting it, but what does that look like?
Right.
And how do we make sure we're being inclusive? And all of our content.
And, the challenge that we're doing at the end of the month, and this will probably air in like November at this point, October, November. But so we're in July now. And the challenge that we're doing is to connect people to GA4. So it's kind of like a workshop, but we're calling it a challenge because it's a little challenging. So we help them, and we have like a VIP thing where we're going to connect GA4, for them. And, we're going to show them how to drive traffic to your homepage within 12 hours. And a lot of that is going to be all text and then speaking to your ideal client, right? And people don't understand that on a picture, you need that all text. It's like they don't, and the stuff that for you and I is like, elementary, my dear Watson, right? I mean, for us, it's like, people don't think about this. And I was just talking to somebody and he's like, I want to hire you for SEO. And I'm like, I don't do SEO. And he said, what do you mean? I said, because it's really not SEO anymore. It's optimizing the website, because Google, the only time that SEO in its traditional sense with Google Business Profile matters now is if you have a brick and mortar. If you don't have a brick and mortar, they're not giving you a Google Business Profile because of all of the scam shit that happened during COVID. All of these scam companies happened, and they didn't have to have a brick and mortar because they couldn't leave the house. So now Google requires the Google Business Profile to be for the map, which was why, and they were really smart, as much as they make me insane sometimes, they were really smart in making it to where you can control your Google Business Profile from the map, because that's where they want you. If you are brick and mortar and you are on the map, then you can have a Google Business Profile if you're new. Now, if you've already had a business and they've quantified you, then you have Google Business Profile. That's different. But if you're a new business and you don't have, like a brick and mortar, you're not going to get a Google Business Profile. So you need to optimize the website to be Google friendly.
Yeah. There's so many things changing, and I love the challenge you're doing with GA4. It's a huge change, and so I know people are going to need to have that insight and have that support really through it too.
Yeah, and it was funny because I was telling my client last week, so you're going to need to hook up to GA4, and she said, why? And I said, because you really kind of want to follow who's on your site, what they're doing. I said, it's like Google Analytics on steroids. It's like a whole different ball game now, because now you're seeing which pages Google is allowing to load on mobile. Because if you don't have things done a certain way, your mobile site's not going to look, it'll load front facing, but Google's not going to index you. So if somebody looks for you, they're not going to find you. So, she said, okay, I'll handle it. And like 3 hours later, I thought she was going to cry.
Yeah.
She was like, this makes no sense to me. And I'm trying, and I said, it's okay. I'm going to pass you on to my person. And I passed her on to my person. My person did what my person does. And it was a beautiful thing. But like when I looked at it, I was like, nope, you can, because it's a lot. I mean, it is, there's so much to the digital landscape that people don't understand. I had friends who I was doing them a favor, and I'll talk about this openly. And they needed a website. They didn't understand what went into the website. They didn't understand that SEO doesn't come with the website, that you have to, buy that separately, whether it's from me or somebody else. You have to buy that separately. It's a separate component.
And a separate skill set for some people.
And a separate skill set. But this was the comment. Well, when I buy a fucking car, it has tires. Why do I need? And I said, I said, the website is the car with the tires. I said, the website optimization piece is kind of your roadmap to getting you to where the car is going. Well, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but if you want to be found, that's what you need to do. Period. I mean, we'll build you a website. It can sit there and nobody will ever find you unless you actually give them the domain to get there.
Yep. No, I agree. And, Iris, it's funny because we could sit here and talk about the intricacies of digital marketing all day long. And a lot of people are going to go, I don't get that, right? Especially if they're small business owners or entrepreneurs. That may not be their skill set. And I'll be honest, some of this is not mine either, right? I don't build websites. I don't do my own SEO. And sometimes even I forget to alt text a message or an image, It's not that something in my brain just didn't want to, it's that I just forgot, there's that extra step. So we all have different things we're juggling, and it's so important to have people on our teams like you do, right? To say, oh, that's the person who can handle that piece.
Right.
And when it comes to social media and digital marketing, I think there's a lot of confusion. They think that one individual should be able to do everything in that, anything that touches
because marketing. It's digital marketing.
Yeah, it's digital marketing. It's all these things. Yep. Yeah, it's your video and editing. It's your taking good pictures and putting those out. It's your writing long form written copy. It's website. It's SEO. And it's like, if you find a unicorn that can do all of those things really, really well, don't ever let them go.
No,
right?
Pay them as much money as you can. Even if you make less, pay them more. Because seriously, because they're so rare. And I think what I find funny is, because I have no employees, I work with all contractors, and they're each specialized in their own thing. Like Kofi is video production and, like online video production and podcast production. And then I have the people who do my websites. And then I have like a local videographer. I do the media buying. Like there are certain things that I do, right? Because I have my, and I do the strategy piece, which is like my favorite thing to do. I mean, I could sit here and brainstorm all day long. So for me, that's, the fun part. But, the other stuff I farm out. And that's why we're all-in-one marketing solutions, because you come to us because, you don't want to work with 10 different people to get the stuff done. But it's not the same person doing all the work. It's different people doing the work. And skill sets are like somebody who is skilled in SEO is usually somebody who loves data. I am not if you give me a spreadsheet with data on it, wake me up when the second page goes. Like I'm not data driven. I'm very like left brained. So I'm more of the creative and more of the, strategizing and all that stuff. When we're doing website we do these like lighthouse reports, and it kind of shows what Google's loading, what Google's not loading. And my web optimizer was trying to explain everything to me. We got like halfway down the thing and I went, stop. I don't care. What do I
tell me what I need to know to make really great content.
All I need to know is what I need to tell the client. She was so freaking excited though. She's like, and so like this does this, and then this does this, and that's why this isn't working. And I was like looking at how excited she was, and I felt bad, but I was like, I don't care. Like this is looking at the spreadsheet is hurting my head. Yep. Which, we all have our strengths, right? So
well, and I don't know if you've seen this over the evolution of owning your own business, but where I excel has changed as a business owner, right? Oh, yeah. Back when I first started with the National Institute for Social Media, I actually came from higher education. I spent 15 years in sales and then training and development. So when I came to the National Institute, what did I do? I did sales. I did business development. That's what I did here, right? I got certified as a social media strategist. I left for a while and did some consulting where I put two of my favorite things together, sales and social media, and did social sales consulting. But I am now in this portion of my career, 10 years later, I'm a business leader. I don't do the strategies anymore. I don't, do all of the different ad buyings. I have I'm so sorry, my phone ringing. But that's not a skill set that I cultivate. It's not something I nurture, right? Right now, it's about me engaging the folks in our community to be their best self, right? And so how are we doing that? I'm working with my advisory board and my content creator and my certification experts and my psychometricians and those types of things to make sure that we're putting out the best certification exam and resources that we possibly can. And that means that I don't have to do it all. And so the evolution of that has changed. And so when I acquired OMCP, it was interesting because I was like, I don't know all these things, right? Like if I were to take the OMCA or OMCP certification, specifically around things like SEO, I would probably not pass. These are not things I've done professionally or have an interest in doing. And so it's really there to help elevate and add credibility to those who do.
Right.
And I'm here to support them in that process. And I love that. I love that, entrepreneurship allows us that evolution, and just business life and growth allows us that evolution.
Oh, yeah. So what made you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Honestly, it wasn't anything that was planned. As I mentioned, I spent 15 years in higher education. I loved what I did. I feel like I was pretty good at it. And in 2012, the higher ed industry was really contracting. A lot of layoffs within that space. And I was one in round 6. My whole team actually was eliminated. And then a couple were hired back. And I chose to step back and not reapply for the position. I knew that my time had come, but I didn't know what that meant.
Wow.
Right. And so I took some time. I finished a master's in organizational leadership, something I had started, but just kind of did in the background, and I started networking and figuring out, what do people do in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is where I live? I didn't even know. I had been traveling like 80% of the time for 4.5 years. So I was like, I don't even know what people do here anymore.
My friend Tawny lives out in Minneapolis.
Oh, fun.
So I know 2 people in Minneapolis now.
There you go. I can introduce you to more because I figured it out. I figured out what people do. But no, it was all networking, honestly, that got me to the National Institute. A neighbor and friend went to a business networking international meeting, and he met this young guy who had this great idea. And he goes, Jen, I think you'd be great for helping him connect with colleges and universities. And it was the owner of the National Institute for Social Media. And so it was kind of one of these things where I just was like, yeah, I can help you while I figure out what I want to do next, right? And then in that process, I realized, I don't want to go back to a corporate setting. There are some things I learned about myself, but also about corporate or business that I wanted to do differently, right? And so I started my own consulting company called Socially Inspired. I did that for a while. And then I had the opportunity to come back in 2016 and purchase the National Institute for Social Media and take over as CEO. So I did that, had a business partner at the time. In 2019, we decided, nope, we going to go separate ways. So I bought out his shares. So we became 100% woman owned, which I love.
Nice.
And we still are today. And then in April of this year, 2023, we brought on OMCP or acquired OMCP. So it was just kind of a door that opened, and we have to be willing to hear it, right? The opportunities or to see them. But that was me. It wasn't an intentional thing.
And it's funny that a BNI meeting, introduced, because I'm in BNI. So when I go tomorrow morning, I'm going to be like, yeah. So I did a podcast yesterday, and this woman started her whole business because she met somebody in BNI.
Yeah.
So, it's funny how you say to be open to the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I wasn't open to them. I don't think I knew how to listen for them. And now it's like, I can't shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's like, I have more, and I am so grateful. You know, I'm never complaining. I'm very grateful. So keep it coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like I'm radar. I hear something and I'm like, oh, and it's not like a sale. It's not like anything like that. It's just like, what can this challenge that I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it hit me that people don't know about GA4. They don't know how to drive traffic to their homepage. They think they do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many people even know what above the fold means?
Right.
I mean, really?
I do.
You do. But so we put this quiz together because not everybody is qualified, you know, for this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't want to take people's money that know their stuff. It doesn't make sense for them to do it. Now, if they want help with GA4, it'll make sense. But, you know, other than that, if they know their stuff, if they know that video is going to, you know, create lag time, if they know that, you know, if they probably don't use WebP, that, you know, it's going to take longer. And well, what's WebP? It's, you know, it's a different format of a picture that is compressed so it loads less. Actually, my newsletter or my email newsletter is going to be on WebP because
Awesome.
I think people need to understand that. So, but I think that it kind of hit me that more people don't know than do know, and they should know.
Mm-hmm.
If it's their website, I mean, if they have somebody managing it, that's different. But if they have a website and it's just been sitting there for 2 years, it's not serving them.
Right.
So let's make it serve them. How do we make it serve them? And then, you know, it became like this crazy thing. And then I realized in the midst of it all, after we got the challenge and we got all the things, we got the quiz and we got the thing and we got all these things worked out, it was like, we're missing a piece. We're missing the trigger to when they take the quiz or when they sign up, where do all the things go? So there has to be like an email automation that I knew nothing about. Now, my former partner, we were in business for 3 years and we parted ways, taught me so much about that. And I'm actually using the platform that we were on. So you talk, it's like one of those things that, you know, everything happens for a reason, right? Good, bad,
right.
Whatever if it's a bad situation, whatever, something good always comes out of it. And thank God, because I was like, oh, I know how to do, because if I did my mouth, that looks awesome. Okay, that was great. But it was like so cool because like where you don't want to do that stuff, that's the stuff that gets my juices going, right? I love the strategy piece. Okay, I don't like setting up systems. Mm-hmm. So I give that to my assistant and she's been doing it all. I'm like, here you go ahead. But you know, realizing that, oh my God, that piece is missing. And then realizing at the same time that, holy crap, I'm scaling. Mm-hmm. You know, so yeah, and I don't know why I went down that road. Just about why I started the challenge, and just like the people that don't understand, it's like you don't know what you don't know.
You don't. No, and we weren't conditioned to think that way necessarily either. Mm-mm. We were conditioned to go get a job, go work for somebody else. You don't necessarily need to fix something that's missing. And as entrepreneurs, that's what we do all the time. We add something, fix something, make something better. And so it's a different way of thinking. And it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
I agree. And, you know, there are so many people out there, you know, that are listening that are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. So what advice would you have for them?
That is, such a good question. I guess the advice that I would make sure is a couple of different things. First, make sure you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you in the areas that you don't want to do.
Oh, yeah.
So entrepreneurs oftentimes, especially if we're in the solopreneur site, I'm going to hang up a shingle. I'm just going to do what I do really well. But they don't realize that, hey, they need to be the salespeople or the marketing people. They need to do the accounting. They need to be registered with the state and, get a federal EIN and do all these things. And so you need to understand all aspects of your business and be willing to take those things on, even if you're not great at them, especially as a new entrepreneur and a solopreneur. But if you surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, right, and you delegate those things, man, you get to do more of what you love. And so I really, really encourage that. On the other kind of side of what we were just talking about, being ready to hear and listen for the opportunities as they present themselves, I also strongly encourage entrepreneurs or solopreneurs to be okay with saying no.
Thank you.
You got to. And this is something I struggle with all the time. I know there's a dear friend of mine who might be listening to this, and she's going to, laugh hysterically at that, because she just reminded me the other day
What's her name?
I need to be Lucia.
Hello,
Lucia reminded me.
Yeah,
she just reminded me, you can't say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Even if you want to.
Yep.
It doesn't do you or your business any good. And so, for entrepreneurs, as they're thinking about what they're offering, it's okay to be very specific and not be a Jack or Jill of all trades, right? Like, you do your SEO or you do your content marketing and you do those things really well. And then again, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you in those other things. So,
right. And I think to that point, it's like in the beginning, for me in the beginning, I didn't say no because I needed the business, right? So you need, say, if you can't say no right away, it's okay. But, get to that point that you can say no, because I turn a lot of business away. Mm-hmm. My wife is like, seriously? I'm like, it's going to be more work than what I'm getting paid. And
it's more work. And sometimes you can't do it as well. So you're not getting a referral or a recommendation.
Your heart's not in it, right? You're going to do a good job for them, but your heart isn't really. And that's one of the things about, me. I'm a very heart-centered business. Mm-hmm. So I'm very relationship-based. I don't work with any contractors that I don't have a relationship with. I don't work with any clients that I don't have a relationship with, because then that heart isn't there. And the heart, I think, is, it's the whole, that's the whole piece for me. It's like I look at my I look at my calendar this week and I was like, holy crap. So I have a half hour here. Is there anybody that I want to, move? Because it's been jam packed, and again, very grateful. But there's not one person that I want to move.
Yeah, that's awesome to be in that situation.
That, right, to me is everything. That is just like, okay. And I have a meeting, tomorrow night at 5:30 with a client. Mm-hmm. 5:30, it's going to go till 7. I don't care, because I love this client and I love what we're doing for them. So, for me, to have gotten to the point that, we get to pick and choose who you want to work with. Now, you're probably different because you're like an organization. So you're not like, okay, I don't like that student, so I'm not going to work with that student. They're just going to come in and do the thing. For me, it's really personal.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different.
You're spot on. I think you and I are kindred spirits in that way, because my heart in relationships is really why I want to do anything that I'm doing. But you're right. As a certification body, I don't get to pick, right, who takes the exam, and I don't get to pick who passes, right? These are all very cut and dry things. Mm-hmm. What I do get to do is develop relationships with the community once they are certified. Right. And I love that. I love getting to know our strategists or our OMCA and OMCP certified professionals, meeting them in person in real life, finding out what they do, where they do it, why they do it. I still bring relationship into all that we do. And And continuing ed is one way. I still host our webinars. I bring our guests in, our experts in, but I'm usually the one asking questions and doing the setup because that's my way to connect with the community, right? It's one way for me to keep that line of communication open. And we can all do what moves our heart. We just have to find creative ways to do it.
Right. And I think we really need to do the inner work to find what that is.
Yeah, yes.
It's not something that we, when I first started, not that I didn't know who I was. I knew who I was. I didn't have clarity around that.
Sure.
So, this last year and a half, lots of clarity, the last 3 years, COVID, I did a lot of inner work, started mindfulness. Because when COVID started, I had a temper. I just didn't understand what was going on. I couldn't control anybody. I was freaking out. I thought my wife or I were going to die alone in the hospital. It was horrible.
Right.
So I started mindfulness and, got all that stuff in check. But just in a personal growth, arena, did a lot of inner work. And who is Iris and what really makes Iris tick? And what can Iris bring to her clients? And then who are the clients that she can bring it to? And that for me was huge. My former partner wasn't very relationship based. He was more number based, like, let's get 100 people in. And for me, it's like, and I didn't know that. Like when we started, I had no idea that I didn't know that, but I was like, I don't want that. I want this. I want to be able to have a conversation, I have like half of my clients, we do wine and Zoom once a month if they're not local. I don't drink a bottle of wine because I can't. I drink like a glass, but I'll have a glass of wine and we'll sit on the Zoom for an hour, not talk business, just talk about life and whatever. And to me, that's what it's about, is building those relationships. And then, even if they're having a personal problem, they reach out to me. They're like, okay, sensei, what do I do here? Or I'll reach out to them like, oh my God, this just happened. What do you? And we don't expect each other to be perfect. And I think that to me is the most valuable thing.
Yeah. And I love that you focused on that for yourself and identified what that was. I think I do that, or I try to do that continuously, because for me, 10 years ago, when I left higher ed, I thought, well, I'm a salesperson who does training and development. And I found out that no, sales is a skill I have, but what moves me is the training and the development. I love seeing someone succeed in whatever that goal is that they have for themselves, especially if it's something they didn't think they could do. Right. And just seeing them take off and seeing them make that transformation. And as a business leader, that's what I get to do. And the fact that I'm doing it in certifications is so cool, because a lot of times, and you mentioned this before, you said something about imposter syndrome, right? When we were first talking. A lot of people in digital marketing have it right now. Entrepreneurs, I think, across the country have it. If we, start to segment that out, some people would claim females have it more than males, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? We all go through some level of imposter syndrome.
Guys have it. They just don't admit it.
Well, and that's, I think, very true. So it's
because I've seen it.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things, though, where, so how do we get through that process, right? How do we prove to ourselves and others that we know what we do? That's exactly what certification does, right? It proves to you as a person that you know what you're doing, but it also gives you the confidence to talk to, and credibility to talk to others about what you know, and not think you're just trying to throw on airs because this is the line you're selling. It's because somebody's assessed your ability, right? And so getting people to that point, somebody who maybe is, comes in really nervous about their skills and are like, yeah, I've been doing it for 10 years, but I was never really taught. So I don't know if I'm even going to pass, to look at me, I'm certified And yes, guess what? My 10 years of experience means I do know something. I'm really good at this, right? And you should hire me, or you should promote me, or you should give me a raise, or whatever the case may be for that person to really help them reach their goals. I love that.
Yeah. And it's, it's so funny because I know my stuff. I mean, and whether I do the certification program or not, because I actually may at this point. We'll have to see, right? But, we were talking the other day about imposter syndrome versus lack of confidence. Mm-hmm. And there's such a difference, because imposter syndrome to me is, your shit. You know your shit, but you have that little thing that gets on your shoulder and it's like, do you really? Mm-hmm. So to me, that's imposter syndrome. Lack of confidence to me means you have no belief in your skills whatsoever. And then in that case, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Sure. So I think that the lack of confidence piece is more of not being confident in your skills, right? Not knowing that you can get the job done. Personally, I know I can, whatever gets thrown at me, I know I can do it. Because I've done it. And like this last year and a half has been, man, the beginning of it was, can I do this? And, okay, yes, I can. And then it was, this is hard. This is way harder than I thought. And then reaching down and finding the courage to push forward, man, that was hard, but I did it. I kept any obstacle that got in my way, I just jumped over. And I was like, come on, bring it. And then there's this thing that, and I'm in this group where we all support each other. And it's like a subset of another group that I'm in, but women in general, right? So we're here and we have this opportunity to be here. But because of what society teaches us and everything, we end up self-sabotaging to where we shrink back down. And for me, it was like when my scaling started and when my growth started, I didn't shrink.
That's good.
I grew. And it was just like, all right, bring it. Throw something else at me. Come on, let's go. Let's do this. And it was the most amazing thing because I was like, I'm doing this. Like I'm doing this thing. And not only am I doing this thing, I'm doing this thing like better than I ever dreamed that I could. And not only that, I have the work behind me to prove it.
Yep.
And oh my God, it's just been like this amazing ride. So, there are seasoned entrepreneurs that are listening to us, right? And, they're going through obstacles. What are some obstacles that you've gone? I just talked about mine, but what's an obstacle that you've gone through that, you've been like, whew, and you came out the other end of?
Yeah. So this is an interesting question also, because I think each of us will have a different journey and we'll have different challenges that come up. For me, one of them was scaling too quickly, and not in the same way that you were just describing. I hired a staff when we first took over at the National Institute for Social Media, a fairly large staff all at one time right away. And my better judgment said that was not necessarily the right thing to do. But the business partner that I was working with said that was the best way. If we're going to do it, we've got to, put it all out there. We got to hire these people. They're going to help us bring in the sales that are going to, pay for their salary. It's a dangerous thing. And I personally, because I do care about people, I didn't like having to let people go or cut down on hours after that. And so I would say, use your judgment. Make sure you have a plan for the money that you're going to spend. You do have to invest in your business to grow. You do have to hire talented people and pay them what they're worth. But you maybe don't go hiring 5 right at one time. Maybe you hire 2 and contract 2 or something like that. That is one thing. something else I kind of learned along the way, and we were talking about this a little bit, confidence and imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome can weigh on our confidence if we listen to it too long, right? And that's where I think entrepreneurs can really value or benefit from some sort of community, whether it be a business coach or entrepreneur mastermind type network, some community of people that are in the same type position you're in. Because leadership is lonely, right? Like you're the one who has to have all the answers about how you move forward. And even in an organization like mine, where I have an advisory board, it still comes down to, I have to make a decision about how we're going to spend money here, or what conferences we're going to go to, and what changes we're going to make. And are we going to roll out a new certification exam? Are we going to buy a new, another certification company? And those things, I can get information and input from my advisory board, but until you have a coach or someone who listens to all aspects of what you're doing and has kind of been there, it's really tough to make those in a bubble. So I would align yourself with other entrepreneurs that you can put in that inner circle of trusted people, and they can do that for you. So you've got somebody to really rely on and ask questions of, and if nothing else, vent to.
That's so funny that you say that, because the group that we met for the first time today, and we're all over the country, the goal of the group was so that we could come in here and not be sold to, because you join masterminds and someone's going to try to sell to you. I mean, I can't tell you, I've left 3 of them this year because like 3 people are trying to sell me, and I'm like, that's not what we're here for. We're here to brainstorm and kind of figure shit out. I don't want your services. If I wanted your services, I would have hired you.
Right. 100%.
And so we made this like safe place that if we're having a bad day, we can have a bad day, that we're authentic, that we are there for each other, that we are strong for each other. And I feel so grateful for that. I'm like so grateful for so many things. It's just kind of crazy, but you're right. To be where we are and to have that support is huge.
Yeah,
it is.
I think those are the 2 obstacles for me that I would, just recommend people taking a look at. One is very tactical, right? Do not scale too quickly. You don't want to have to let people go. And some very large mega corporations could probably use that advice as well. But the other is really about, surrounding yourself with those trusted advisors, getting a peer network in place so you've got that resource.
Yeah, I love that. And it was just, the timing was just so funny, because when we were sitting there, because they all, are you in the Dames?
I'm not, no.
No, we should talk about that, because I think you would do very well in the Dames. But anyway, okay. I'm in the Dames, and this is a subset, and we're called the Dames, we're like a power pod, and it's 7 of us. And I think 5 of us knew each other. Well, I knew 5 and I didn't know 2. And we each kind of knew each other on some level, except for, and the timing was perfect because of me just scaling, of people just starting to go through stuff. And it's not a bitch session.
Right.
It's just oh my God, this is what I'm going through. Have you been through it before?
Right.
Yes, great. What did you do? Or, I'm where you were and I decided that I didn't want to go any further. Mm-hmm. And it's, I love it. Peer support is so important. And I didn't realize that until today. And I was like, I didn't realize, I know a lot of people, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, but I never looked at it as like a support relief kind of thing. This is actually what this is built for. And it's amazing. So yeah. Well, I'm not going to ask what your differentiator is because obviously, duh. So, how do people get hold of you? Like, how do they, okay. So if somebody, so like me, for instance, although I'm probably near retirement at some point, so that's like another story, but I'm old. I just turned 63. So, but for people out there that are thinking about, being certified, like what, what, how do they get to you? How would they even, know, because I didn't even know about this until, and I went the National Institute of Social, what? It was like, how do you get the word out there? Like, how would people know how to find you?
Well, so anybody who's listening here, my LinkedIn has been scrolling. The websites have been going through. You can find us anywhere. I encourage people to reach out to me personally. I don't have a problem with that. As we talked about earlier, I love helping people through their process. I'm not going to sell them something that doesn't work. So if they are really concerned, like, what do I do between OMCP and NISM? Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what works and what your goals are. But for those people who aren't listening, how do they find us? Well, they find us in a couple of different ways, right? So they might find us because an employer has asked or preferred a certification of ours. And so they go, oh, what is that thing that I do not have? They might find us because somebody posts on LinkedIn that they were recently certified. And so they share what that looks like. And people go, if you have that, I should probably have that, right? We get involved in different networking events and marketing conferences. I do a lot of speaking all the time at different events. I've got educators across the country and actually one in Germany. And so they also are spreading the word. And we do things like advertising, Google Ads, but it's a very organic process, right? And really connecting with the right people at the right time. We don't necessarily, we don't connect with high school seniors too often, because they have no practical experience. They're not going to be able to pass the exam, right? We work with professionals typically who have 3 to 5 years of experience and are looking to level up, take that next step, move into a strategy role. They've maybe been, social media managers or community managers, and now they're wanting to get into strategy. Or on the OMCP side, they were a marketing intern or a marketing coordinator, and now they're getting into planning and maybe doing more SEO or pay-per-click advertising. And so they're specializing a little bit more. Those are our people. And so we find them in a variety of places. We go to them most of the time. So they hear about us in person.
That's awesome. So are there, do you have little satellites all over the country, or are you just in Minnesota?
Well, we're headquartered here in Minnesota, but I do have educators in Florida, in Texas, several here in Minnesota, Colorado, and then I mentioned Germany. We've got educational partnerships with organizations across the country. OMCP just brought on Western Governors University, and their digital marketing master's program is fully includes the OMCA certification, which is amazing. They even include the exam voucher. So if you go get their master's, you can get the whole kit and caboodle. Wow. So yeah, we've got a variety of different things.
That is awesome. Cool.
It's fun.
So that is and because I remember when we first talked, I was like, I never even heard of that. And then how would I hear of that? So that's really cool. So see, an hour. It just goes, and I always say, we could talk forever. So, especially about digital marketing. I think we could talk about anything, but if we talk about marketing, we're screwed because we'd be hours. So, the last question that I ask all my guests is, what lights your fire? And it can be personal, professional. It doesn't have to be, just what lights you up.
Yeah. So if we just talk about in general, it's my family, my kids. I've got a 19-year-old son and a 17-year-old daughter, and they definitely light my fire all the time, keep pushing me going forward. And it comes back to what you and I were talking about earlier, right? I love seeing people succeed. And there is nothing better than watching my children go through that evolution of success, whatever it looks like. For my son, it was getting into college. For my daughter, who's a senior in high school right now, it's going to be, her senior swim season and that senior year and getting into college and where's she going to go and an adult. And so I just love empowering other people and watching them succeed, sitting back and watching them reap the rewards of their hard work. And my family is my core. So
I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking time today.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Really appreciate it. Hang on, I'm going to say goodbye, and then I'll be right back.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, again, thank you so much for hanging out, an hour plus. For any of you digital marketers out there, social media people who want certification, it's NISM and omcp.org. It's scrolling on the bottom. Want to thank our sponsors, Innovia Behavioral Health, and everybody who's been listening. That was my Amazon delivery, but everybody who's been listening and commenting and downloading and just all of it. I'm so grateful for all of you. I know I say this every week, and it's not just chatter. It's the truth. Like, from the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful because I get to do what I love, and this is like so much fun for me. So I appreciate you all. Keep listening, keep downloading. Until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.